All right, we are now recording the session. Welcome to this class. So the unit is Environmental Literatures, Cell 303. And this is our, I hope you can see the course outline. Are you able to see from your end? Are you able to see the course outline from your end? Sheila? Just confirm that you can see. Are you able to see the course outline from your end? Sheila, can you see the course outline?
Yes.
Or you cannot see it?
I can.
You can, huh?
Can see it.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first topic will be the meaning of ecocriticism. So basically, when we talk about environmental literatures, the major canon here is ecocriticism, the nexus between literature and the ecological environment. So people call it the natural environment, but in this particular unit, we will be talking about the ecological environment. That will be the major terminology you need to understand. So under this, we look at superiority of nature, or what we call anthropocentrism, and then we look at novum organum. There was the father, Francis Bacon was the father of modern science, and he actually argued that human beings are superior at the center of creation, and are supposed to subdue every other aspect of the ecological environment. And so basically in eco-criticism, we try to argue against this, that human beings are not the center. So we will look at the Novum Organum. That was the book that was written by Francis Bacon, the father of modern science. And then the second topic will be modernity and the ecological environment. We will look at how, modernism, or the relationship between modernism and modernity and the ecological environment. So we'll try to see, because basically in the modern age, modernism tries to marginalize, the ecological environment, or what we call Mother Nature. And then after that, we will look at strands of eco-criticism, the first wave, second wave, and then the third wave. We'll also look at Lawrence Boyle and his tenets. So, so in this particular unit, you must master eco-criticism, the strands of eco-criticism, and all that. And then number 4, environmental eclipticism, the meaning of the concept, and then our major text will be the Armageddon and other stories. And then number 5, Mother Nature and economy. Is there any relationship between Mother Nature and the economic aspects of life? And under this, we look at John Steinbeck's The Pearl and Charlo Mativo's On the Market Day. And then session 6, we will focus on the nexus between the ecological environment and religion. Is there any? So we're trying to say that actually the ecological environment affects, many other aspects of human life. Felix, you have raised your hand. Do you have an issue? Do you have an issue? Are you raising an issue? You have raised your hand.
Yes, there are some parts hiyo sauti na katika kidogo.
Oh,
Yes. Like
Sheila,
hapo kwa introduction kiasi nilikuwa kuna some parts sijapata kidogo, like
hujapata.
sound ilikuwa napotea.
And Sheila, is it the same?
No, it's clear on your side.
Okay. Okay, but I'll try to be audible and see. Just give me 2 minutes. Yeah, so then we have Mother Nature and Economy. So under this, we look at John Steinbeck's The Pearl and Charlo Mativos on the Market Day. And then number 6, we look at the ecological environment and religion. And under this, we look at Black Mamba Boy by Nadifa Mohammed. And Witi, is it Witi Itihimera, the Whale Rider, So we are trying to say that actually Mother Nature affects every aspect of our life. And it may not necessarily, that human beings are not necessarily superior to the ecological environment. That's what we are trying to say. Then number 7, Mother Nature and mental health, hot deserts and how they affect mental health, and then cold weather and how it affects mental health. And under this, basically, we look at Voyage in the Dark by Jean Rice, and also God Dies by the Nile. And then the ecological environment and politics. Can it affect even the way people or the systems of government? And this we look at Lagumas, the fog of a season's end, and a grain of wheat, or we can change. But basically, the content will determine what we have on the portal or in the sessions will determine the books. And then session 9, Mother Nature, Customs and Traditions. And here we look at Colette's Blossoms of Savannah, or any other book that you will find in the main session. Because sometimes as I prepared the session, I kept changing some things. And then we have the last session, we look at the relevance of Western strands of criticism, because criticism is mainly controlled by scholars from the West. But is this relevant to the African experience? So we will have to question that. Is it relevant to the African experience? So those will be the topics. Those will be the topics. So let's go to topic 1 straight away, so that we don't waste time. Any time. So just give me some. So in this unit, we are trying to deconstruct or to interrogate the main ideals of modernism. And one of the major features of modernism is that humanity is at the center of creation, that everything revolves around human beings. But in environmental studies, we dispute that in fact, sometimes Mother Nature or the ecological environment is at the center. Sometimes it's at the center. Yeah. So we are trying to say that they shift. Sometimes human beings are at the center, they are more important. Other times, the ecological environment is more important than human beings. That's what we are trying to say. And so in this unit, we will try to show how the ecological environment is very important and how literature proves that how literature proves that the ecological environment is very, very important. And so by so doing, we'll be able to encourage environmental conservation. So it's not just theoretical, that we should even go ahead and challenge people to take action and challenge society to take action so that the environment is not overexploited. Because at the end of the day, when we overexploit the natural environment, we will lose it. That's what we are trying to say. So what's the meaning of eco-literatures? The meaning of eco-literatures, so eco-studies in literature fundamentally operate as an ethical and critical project that challenges the deep-seated Western belief in the human superiority over nature. So this belief that human beings are superior to the environment basically emanated from the West. When you look at the African cosmology, African cosmology does not hold that way. In fact, as we are going to see, there's a writer called Okuyade 2013, and also Mbiti 1970. He argues that in the African cosmology, even some trees or some aspects of the ecological environment were even had even a divine status. They even had a divine status. Some trees were sacred, and worship could only be done under certain trees. Some mountains were seen as gods, like among the Agikuyu. They believed that God lived on Mount Kenya. And so the mountain was very important. So in the African cosmology, there is no anthropocentrism. There is no homocentrism. These are some of the words you need to know in ecological studies. Homocentrism, they believe that human beings are at the center, or what we call anthropocentrism. They are the same concepts. Yeah. So this is a Western worldview that human beings are at the center of creation and ecological features are at the periphery. So this anthropocentric worldview, which frames the environment as a passive, inexhaustible resource for human utility, is critically interrogated across literary and cultural texts. That's what we will do. So we'll go into literary books here and try to interrogate this anthropocentrism. Yeah. So a key point of inquiry within the field is the interrogation of Novum Organum. Novum Organum. This was a book which was written by the father of science, Francis Bacon. He was a philosopher. And when he was introducing the scientific method, he really emphasized the superiority of man, the superiority of humankind over the ecological environment. So we'll read some of the tenets of that book and then interrogate it. We'll also try and see whether it is true that Bacon elevated the ecological environment over human beings, over human beings, or whether he elevated human beings over the ecological environment. We will look at the book and see, because modern scientists may also just take advantage. They may just take advantage. They may misinterpret, and then they will try to exalt humanity over nature. So this was Francis Bacon's influential text as the intellectual origin that solidified this instrumental approach, advocating for nature's scientific manipulation and subjugation. Yeah. So basically, modernism believes in the superiority of humanity over the ecological environment. And modernism was brought to Africa by colonialism. Yeah, that's one thing you should know. It came by colonialism. But if you look at African cultures, in the African cosmology, nature was not the other. Nature was not the other. So this session is guided by the following learning outcomes. These are the learning outcomes that will guide this particular session. It is happening now. I'm sorry for that. So it's guided by the following: define ecocriticism and identify its core function, and then interrogate the foundational texts such as Novum Organum. So one thing I want you to know is that most of our sessions will try to show the intersection between theory and literary texts. And that's why you can see in this unit. Well, I'm not just going to talk about literary texts. Of course, we will talk about The Whale Rider. We'll talk about Black Mamba Boy. We'll talk about all those other books. But you will see that Novum Organum is a theoretical text. So in literature, we must always bring together philosophy and literary texts. So don't just talk about even when you write your term paper, don't just write about literary texts. No, that is high school mentality, or even not just high school, even undergraduates. They can just talk about the primary text. But for you at master's and PhD level, you must always have a theoretical framework. So you cannot talk about environment literatures without eco-criticism. There are major voices in eco-criticism. Like here now, Francis Bacon lays the foundation for anthropocentrism, and eco-criticism interrogates anthropocentrism or homocentrism. Yeah, and so you don't just talk. If you want to be a good literary scholar, don't just talk about the primary text. No, you must have a theoretical work which you use to analyze our work. And then after that, have what you call critical works. Critical works are voices that have analyzed the primary text. Yeah. So in scholarly writing, you mix theoretical works, critical works, and the primary text. Yeah. So that is the way you move. Yeah. So that's why you'll discover that I'm not just here to teach you literary texts. Yeah. It's not just literary texts are just symbols. They are just symbols. Yeah. We use them as what? It's just like data you collect in the field. For us in literature, literary texts are now the data. The data for research. You use them to collect data. That's why yesterday I keep saying we are not just here to idolize writers. No. Yeah. We as critics, we must have theories, we must have methodology. Yeah. And then we get our topic. So like now our topics are in environmental literatures, but we must have theoretical works to assist us understand these issues better. So number 3, we'll critique anthropocentrism. They believe in superiority of human beings over nature. So that's a very important concept you must get in this particular unit, anthropocentrism. Even for us Christians, we like quoting Genesis 1:26. And God commanded man to do what? To have power over all creation. And most people take advantage of that scripture to marginalize the ecological environment. Having power over nature does not mean we destroy it. Yeah? It doesn't mean we destroy it. But why can't you also ask yourself, if indeed we are so powerful, why did God create us number 7? Why didn't He make us number 1? Yeah? Yeah? Because if we had come early, we wouldn't have been able to have water for drinking, to get food from plants, to get food from animals. Yeah, and that's why the fact that we were created last, it tells you that Mother Nature holds a very important position, a very important place, yeah, in our lives, So in this particular unit, we want you to appreciate, yeah, we want you to start appreciating the centrality of the ecological environment, the centrality of the ecological environment in human life. Number 4, articulate ethical eco-criticism's goal of dismantling the rigid nature/culture binary. So the question of nature/humanity binary, that We are the self and nature is the other. So we will try to dismantle that kind of binary so that we understand that sometimes nature can become the center. Nature can become the center. So what is eco-criticism? What are environmental literatures? Yeah. So number one, it is the study of literature and environment. Eco-criticism is the study of literature and environment. Yeah. So we try to see the nexus between literature and the physical environment. How can literature assist in the environmental conservation? Yesterday we said literature is propaganda in the other unit. And because literature can be propaganda, we can use it, to promote environmental conservation. We can use it. So literature can affect environmental conservation by doing what? By communicating to the world that there is need to conserve our environment. And how can the environment affect literature? What is the nexus between the environment and literature? We know literature is very homocentric. By nature, literature is homocentric. But maybe before we continue, let me just ask you, look at a book like River Between. Look at a book like River Between. The writer uses Riverhonia as a symbol of reconciliation. Then we have Kameno and Makuyu. So how does Ngugi, according to Boyle 2005, a book like River Between cannot be brought under eco-criticism because it does not directly encourage environmental conservation. Because according to Boyle, a work of art is only an environmental work if it directly talks about the need to conserve the environment, or if the writer suggests that the problems we are having in the society is because of continued neglect of the environmental conservation. So, but what is your opinion? Would you say that the River Between cannot at all be used, cannot promote the ecological environment at all? Can we say that? Do you agree with Boyle that for our work to be counted as an environmental literature, it must directly talk about the need to conserve the environment? Would you agree that a poem like I Love You, My Gentle One, and because it says you are like the papyrus seed of the lake, it's just using that as a metaphor, as aestheticism. And so because it's aestheticism, that is homocentric, and therefore it cannot contribute anything to the environment. Would you say that? Before we continue, I want you people to help me here. What do you think? Do you agree with the Boyle? That for a work of art to be an environmental literature, it must directly talk about the need to conserve the environment. That those who use images from the local environment are promoting homocentric ethos. Would you say that? Nataka sasa muongee kidogo ndio tuendelee. Would you say that? Must a work of art directly talk about environmental conservation to be counted as an eco-literature? Would you agree with that? Because we are going to look at Boyle and his tenets. By the way, there is a book I've written. It's about 240 pages. And I was trying to interrogate, I was trying to interrogate this issue of Boyle, that the River Between cannot be eco-literature because the river is only used for aesthetic purposes. And so Ngugi does not value the environment, the natural environment. Would you say that in River Between, Ngugi does not show any value for the natural environment because the major theme is not in environmental conservation? Would you say that? Najua nyinyi sasa ni masters, and I'm using these thoughts to provoke you. I told you at master's level, we question arguments. If you don't question anything, you will not be able to do well in literature. Let me tell you in advance. In literature, we even question the theories. In scholarly writing, in scientific writing, no discovery is permanent. Do you know you can even write something and oppose what Sigmund Freud said, and you come up with a thesis? Was it Carl Jung? Carl Jung opposed Sigmund Freud. Carl Jung, he opposed him, and later on his discoveries were found to be better than Sigmund Freud. So sitaki mkuwe tu watu wa kusikiza tu vitu, because according to Boyle, a work of art can only be eco literature if it directly contributes to environmental conservation. It praises, it talks about the need to conserve water, the need to not to pollute the environment. But according to Boyle, works like River Between, where ecological features are just used to for as symbols or images, that is homocentric. Yeah. And so because of that, yeah, they are thrown out. That's why I'm asking, would you agree with that? That, for example, River Between does not have any value to the ecological environment? Anybody? Would you support that? There you are. Sheila, would you support that? That all works that use ecological features as symbols or images have no ecological value? Any reaction? Why would Bitamazire, for example, avoid other images? There are other images Bitamazire would have used, but Bitamazire chooses to use the papyrus reed of the lake. Why can't you use steel, for example, something like a metal? Why can't you say you are as strong as steel? Why does he use the papyrus reed? Because there are other human images the writer would have used. Ngugi would have used other things, because there are other man-made objects we can also use in poetry and in literature. But why do African writers like Chinua Achebe use animal and plant images? So what I'm trying to say is that we look at Boyle, of course. Boyle tries to say that, Boyle is a European, and if you look at their strand of eco-criticism, yeah, they don't understand the African cosmology. And so later on, you will discover that as much as we are trying to use Western strands of eco-criticism, they are not really relevant to the African mode of thought. Africans, because that's why I'm saying Bitamazire would have used, other images. Like when you look at, sometimes I listen to songs like KK sings songs. One of his songs is called Mudhoni Kifagio, and then in that song, he uses a car, ATM, you see? He's comparing Mudhoni to, you are not a personal car, Kumbe wewe ni, you are a what? You are not a personal car. You are a what? You are like a matatu or something. You are not, you are like an ATM, you see? And you see, an artist can have other man-made images. But the fact that African writers use ecological features or images from the ecological environment, it tells you that Africans have a lot of respect for the ecological environment. So by using Kameno, Makuyu, and Riverhonia, Ngugi proves that he has a lot of respect for the ecological environment, and by so doing, he is spreading is doing what you call public awareness. He's enabling people to understand, yeah, about the importance of mountains, hills, and rivers. Yes, Felix, go ahead.
Yes, I hope you can get me clearly.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Yes, now there is from by the time we're starting,
Yes.
so there is because this is what I've grasped so far.
Mm.
When we're talking about eco criticism,
Mm.
which is the study of literature and the environment.
Yes.
Then we talked about that is the African works, and also that is something which I've seen in so many texts that the African works majorly focuses that is African writers focuses on using that is the environment, be it poetry, they derive imagery, simile, and even metaphors from the environment. Like if you look at the works of Okot Pabitek, Bitek, I think, Bitek in some of his, I think he has used some of them, if I'm not wrong. And then we also look at, you talked about Bitamazire in his poem, I Love You, My Gentle One, that is in the Anthology of Poems, I think, by David Cook. Then we have got Ngugi, the River Between. Now, there is only something which, an argument you are trying to bring in, according to, is it Boyles?
Boyle, yes.
According to Boyle, you told us that Boyle said, Boyle argues that any work which is not bringing in the aspect of environmental conservation or its importance to the human life does not qualify to be an ecocentric book, is it?
Yes.
And then we are now looking at, is Bitamazire, there's the question you raised, which I was still thinking, is Bitamazire, Ngugi, or Okot Pabitek,
yes,
are they qualified to be ecocentric books or authors, or should they not fall into that category according to Boyle's criticism? That is where you're looking into ecocentrism. So, according to the way Boyle argues, that the work must promote, the work must promote environmental conservation, and yes, and looking at the way, if I look at Bitamazire, to me, Bitamazire has just used it as a aesthetic manner in which it brings in something which many people uses.
Yes.
The papyrus reed, which we all understand and know. So to me, it is just a mere symbolism.
Yes.
And it does not qualify to fall under Boyle's.
Yes. So do you support Boyle? Do you support Boyle that people like Bitamazire, Ngugi's River Between, they don't qualify to be environmental literatures?
No.
Would you support
I
Boyle?
I don't support him fully, but if I look at now the African works,
yes,
Ngugi qualifies, because Ngugi is bringing in the aspect where we even see Muthoni and Nyambura all going to the river, taking in that water, that the water which is being used to cook, to drink. It was the river of life in from the Makuyu and Kamene people. And so Ngugi's work qualifies to fall under Boyle's, that is theory of ecocentrism.
But according to Boyle, as we are going to see, Boyle says that any work of art that only refers to the ecological features for expression, for style, those are not environmental literatures. According to him, environmental literatures must directly, express environmental themes, or they should try to suggest that the kind of problem the environment is facing, like in Blossoms of Savannah, the writer suggests that the kind of dryness we see in Ingito is caused by environmental neglect, but works that just like now Bitamazire's I Love You, My Gentle One, He's only, according to Boyle, Peter Mazire is only using the environment to express human themes. The husband is just trying to express his love for the wife. So you are just using the environment for aesthetic purposes. And so according to Boyle, those are not environmental literatures. Yeah. So according to Boyle, river between is already out because the river is only a symbol of reconciliation. But the writer is not concerned because there is no theme on environmental. There is no environmental theme in river between. Yeah, that is what he says. Yeah, but we will come to that, of course. But thank you for your contribution, Felix. Let's continue. Ruth, you are welcome to class. So we have just introduced the. Ruth, are you able to show us your face today for people to see you? Or you are still not able to? Ruth, are you able to show us your face today? You are writing. Yeah, so those are the arguments I want you to reflect on because once we finish our coursework, you'll be required to look for a topic. And personally, that's how I get my topics. I overturn. Like in that book, I overturned Boyle's tenets. And I was able to write a full book of 240. By March, it will be out. Yeah. And that's why I'm telling you, for you to get a topic at master's and PhD, be very critical. When you see even a theory, try to interrogate it, examine it. Yeah. Do not just take it like gospel truth. No. Sometimes you may just question something and then you end up with something very new. And I told you of Carl Jung. Carl Jung interrogated Sigmund Freud. And later on, Freud refused to talk to him. Yeah, they could not even see eye to eye. And yet, he was actually his student. Carl Jung was Freud's student. But later on, they went into different, everybody had his own theory of psychoanalysis in a way about dreams and all that. And later on, people discovered that Carl Jung was more realistic than Freud. So when I give you such food for thought, please contribute and let's talk. When I ask a question, let's participate more. So let me encourage Sheila and Ruth. Please be ready to communicate more so that we make it more discursive and you will learn more. So then there is this lady called Glotfelty, 1995, observes that eco-criticism takes an avowedly earth-centered approach to literary studies. And it treats nature not merely as a background, but as an active subject deserving ethical attention. So even in works of art, the natural environment should not just be a background or a setting. Yeah, that's what Glotfelty is saying. That let the writer directly be concerned about the ecological environment. That's why as I choose these works, some of them I'm trying to argue, but some of them are ecological. Like that story on the market day by Chalo Mativo. The writer deliberately comments about the ecological environment. It must be in Ukambani. Yeah. So Chalo Mativo does very good work on trying to show the impact of the natural environment on the life of characters. And actually, as we deal with this unit, this is an area which is very new. And if you end up with a good topic in this area, yeah, it is something that can take you also very far. Like I've told you, I think I've published now. This will be my second book in eco-criticism. And even when I look at Amazon, there is a book I wrote on eco-criticism, and it has always been number one. When I check Amazon, when they are now rating the most popular book, like now it's number 2, but the whole of November, that book was number 1. People are very much interested in environmental issues. And so those of you who have the heart for the environment, if you get a topic in environmental issues, it can sail very well because it's actually an area that's marketable. So environmental imagination in literature. So environmental literature is defined by its preoccupation with humanity's relationship to the non-human world. How do we relate to the non-human world? Yeah, trees are not non-human. So we are trying to argue that literature should not just be homocentric. If you look at books like The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born, yeah, it is just about politics in Ghana. So those are the books that you cannot say because most of the themes are just human-centric. But in environmental imagination, we are trying to say that literature should also shift focus to also think about the non-human environment. How do the texts imagine and structure environmental perception? Should texts just use the environment for aesthetic purposes? So for eco-criticism, we want people to be concerned directly with the natural environment. There is a work I'm writing now. There is a novel I'm writing now. It is called Eclipse 3030. Yeah. The book is directly on the effects of global warming. Yeah. So this one I'm now going the way Boyle says. I want to write a novel on the need, the effects of global warming. That if we are not careful, global warming can just like Armageddon. I think there's my short story, Armageddon. It was just trying to argue that what will destroy the world is not necessarily nuclear weapons. That environmental effects. If we don't conserve the environment, global warming can end the world. That's what I was trying to imagine in the Armageddon. Yeah. So Boyle 1995 says that ecological reading emphasizes a text's environmental imagination and its practical role in addressing ecological crisis. So Boyle says he is not interested in just what? In just using the environment for symbolism or imagery or aesthetics, but directly, practically addressing the ecological crisis. Yeah. So for you who are creative writers, if you want your work to be counted as environmental literature, it must directly address the environmental crisis that we are having. If it's a poem, it must do that. Although the problem with such works, if you're not careful, they can be very boring. Yeah. Look at Blossoms of Savannah. He was writing about human themes, feminism basically. Yeah. But then later on, he added something. So this one, again, if you're not careful, like I was trying to analyze, like poems which just talk about environmental conservation, if you listen to them, some of them are very boring. So again, you have to be careful so that you write a good work. So what again is eco-criticism? Criticism is a critical cultural project. Yeah, criticism is a cultural analysis that examines the representation of nature in cultural forms with the crucial dual purpose of diagnosing the causes of environmental decline. So these are works that try to address this problem. What are the causes of the environmental decline? Yeah. So you try to critique anthropocentrism and how it affects the natural environment. Gara 2012 contends that eco-criticism is inherently a political project aimed at improving human-environment interaction. So it's a very political thing. Yeah, it's a very political thing. You try to see how humans can improve human/environment interactions. How can we interact with the environment better? That the modern age marginalizes the ecological environment, which creates binary relationship. Binary means human beings see themselves as superior to Mother Nature. And this is what we want to discourage in eco-criticism. Another thing about eco-criticism is that, or environmental literature, is that it is interdisciplinary. Yeah, it is interdisciplinary. It intersects with other disciplines. According to Slovic 2001, environmental literature is inherently broad and interdisciplinary. which seeks to evaluate and reevaluate literary, cultural representations of environmental concerns, moving beyond focus on canonical nature writing to encompass all texts and cultural products that bear witness to human impact. So again, we will not just focus on just romantic poetry of Europe. We will not just focus again on things that we must look at all cultural texts and see, and see if there is the elements of environmental conservation. That's why I keep arguing, even in poems like I Love You, My Gentle One, should we just say that this one is not talking about the environment? No, because Bitamazire enables us to know about the egret. When he says you are the cattle bird's egg, for those who saw you are wealthy. Among the Batoro, they believe that the cattle bird hides the egg. It hides the egg. You cannot get the egg of the cattle bird very easily. And so, if you know something about the cattle bird, and the egret, you now realize that you can learn certain features or certain behavior or certain attributes from the egret. And if we can learn something from the egret, that shows that the writer values the ecological environment or ecological features. But we just say as brave as a lion, like our oral narratives. Why is the hare seen as very intelligent? That one tells you that African societies respect ecological features. They respect animals. They respect animals. So even from such works, there is something you learn about the ecological environment. So we'll not just go by Boyle. No, we will not just go by Boyle. Then the Novum Organum. So Bacon was the father of Francis Bacon was the father of anthropocentrism. In anthropocentrism, he elevates humanity. He says that his primary goal was to reform human knowledge to achieve practical dominion over nature. So according to Boyle, he wanted to show that human beings should use nature, should take samples from nature to create knowledge, that nature is there to be exploited to create knowledge. Bacon was the father of modern science. And when he wrote his first work, he exalted humanity over nature. That's the picture of Bacon. And so in his work, Novum Organum, it serves as a foundational text for the modern scientific project. But eco-criticism identifies it as the source of Western aggressiveness and exploitative nature against the ecological environment. That as much as we are trying to uplift science, we need to know that nature also contributes. Even without nature, you will not get your samples for research. And that's why for us in environmental literatures, we believe that sometimes nature occupies the center of human life. Can you imagine even how can you live without oxygen? And we get oxygen from the air. So why do you think that our environment, our natural environment, is just inferior to us? So his methodology was designed to conquer and subdue nature. That was okay. That's what people interpret his work. But if you read his work, you will discover that it is not necessarily that way. When you look at some of it, the lines, when I read the book, I discovered that modernists also exaggerated it. He did not specifically. He did not just mean that. There are some aphorisms that he used that prove that he also had some value for nature. So, however, critics contend that Bacon also elevated nature's place in human experience. When I read the book, Nyongesa 2021 writes, there is a sense in which Bacon also expressed the essential role of Mother Nature, which his successors shoved aside to perpetuate their anthropocentric ethos. Yeah. So when you read the book, you discover that he has, like here, look at what he writes here. Man being the servant and interpreter of nature, can do and understand so much and so much only as he has observed in fact or in thought of the course of nature. Beyond this, he neither knows anything nor can do a thing. So from this, we discover that Bacon sees man as what? A servant and interpreter of nature. But people just took other aphorisms. But in this one here, you can see he considers human beings as servants of nature. For example, you cannot do a lot of experiments without those species. Look at biology, for example. Yeah, they look at insects, they do what, they pick them. So without those insects, how can they carry out their tests? And that's why Bacon says that we are basically servants and interpreters of nature. So this quote acknowledges nature as the master and humankind as acknowledges nature as the master and humankind as the servant, as the servant. And so sometimes nature can also be a master. And I know there are very many instances that you can look at to show how. Look at an earthquake, for example. Yeah. United States, with all its earthquakes, with all its technology, I mean, when an earthquake occurs very well, they can only give people food. There is nothing they can do. Yeah. That's why sometimes we really lie to ourselves when we think we are superior to the natural environment. Where are people going to? Hasa watu wameenda karibu wote. I hope you can hear me, Felix. Watu walienda wapi? Kina Ruth?
Yes, yes. I can hear you.
Kina Ruth, the ladies have all disappeared. So let's continue. I'm finishing. Yeah, so empirical knowledge can only be accessed by humankind's ability to study what nature provides. Without the environment, humankind is incapable of nothing. And so the consistent association of Bacon with anthropocentrism is unfounded. So much as people say he was the father of anthropocentrism, I think his work should be read well. They should read the work well, so that, and you will discover very many aphorisms that also talk about the value of nature. Then we have Glotfeldt in 1995. She's often cited as the founder of environmental literary studies, and she defines eco-criticism as taking an avoidedly earth-centered approach to literary studies. This shift in focus is inherently non-anthropocentric, insisting that nature must be treated as a subject worthy of serious ethical and critical attention, not merely as a passive background for human drama. So she's trying to insist that, therefore, if we write a work of art, nature should not just be seen as a framing device, but sometimes we must write deliberately about nature itself. Yeah, so that according to Glotfeldt, environmental literature must directly express environmental themes. And if you look at most of the novels that we have read, I think you will discover that most of them are homocentric or anthropocentric. But personally, I believe even in those anthropocentric works, if we look at them again very clearly, personally, I believe you can find the value for nature. Like I was looking at one of your stories, the one you wrote, the latest story. Can you remind me the title? Remind me the title, the story you,
That is in
the short story, the one you wrote.
the the spirits of Kinondo.
Yeah, the spirits of Kinondo. Yeah. And you can see the way ecological features, the altar is inside. Is it in the, yeah, the kayas, The kayas.
Yes.
Hey, look at the place where they are. Yeah. And the snake, yeah. Look at the way
Yes.
the snake, and it reminded me of the concubine, yeah, the concubine, where when a Menike goes to give a sacrifice to Amadioha, and Amadioha is actually a big snake which comes to eat chicken. And so you discover that in these societies, nature was not just the other. If a snake is seen as a god in a way, and according to Mbiti, religion in the African cosmology is the fulcrum where life revolves. So if religion is very important in the African cosmology and the snake, so if it is a if religion is respected and the snake, yeah, is seen as a god in a way, yeah, then as an ecological feature in the African cosmology, nature can be a god. Just like even like the way they talk about the mountain and so um um this eco-criticism, the Buell strand of eco-criticism, is Western styled, and we need an African strand of eco-criticism. Yeah, we need an African strand of eco-criticism. This Western strand does not really work for us. And that's why, as much as they're trying to say that we must directly have works that talk about environmental conservation, no, no. In Africa, the environment is very important. And you can see Okuyade 2013 saying that the African perspective on the environment differs significantly from that of the industrialized West. Yeah? Okuyade notes that in Africa, nature is not the other, but it is intrinsically woven into the social and cosmic order. You know, the cosmic order. Nature is not the other. And because of the Western strand of cognition, in the Western thinking, there is this binary. That's why you see people like Boyle and Glotfelty insisting that now we must have special works that just talk about environmental what? Environmental conservation, because according to the modernist canon, nature has been isolated. But for us in Africa, nature is not far is not far from is not far from us. Yeah. So maybe as I finish, what are the goals of eco-criticism? Number one, dismantling the nature culture binary. That human beings are not superior to nature. So scholars argue that separating humans from natural world is a conceptual error that permits exploitation. Number two, redefine human identity and morality. Ethical eco-criticism advocates for the development of an ecological self. So we must redefine, the human identity and morality, so that we must have a self that has that is related to the natural environment. Yeah. How are we related to the natural environment? We should not just think about ourselves and we forget about the natural environment. Number three, political and practical engagement. That once you write your thesis and present, you should now go out and engage so that you encourage environmental conservation. That we are not just interested in talking about the theoretical aspect, but also engaging so that we promote environmental conservation. And that is the end of my lesson today. That is the end of my lesson today. Yes, so I've ended with Felix. I cannot see our colleagues wameenda wapi. Wameenda wapi? Ruth just appeared shortly. Yes, that is the end. Any question?
Okay, like I don't have any question.
Yes.
I just hope we really waiting for the activities and
Yeah.
getting accessing the notes and the books so that at least I can get engaged. Like that's so that this content it requires
Yes.
like once you've done we call it the introductory part of it and getting like I really wanted to read more and deep so that I can understand the tomorrow I'll very sure I'll be going next time we'll be moving to modernity and ecological environment.
Mm.
That is our next session. So I really want to take my time and look into the meaning of ecocentrism and criticism and read more about the Novum
Organum.
Organum. I want to get the concept properly. That is by activities and getting the books. So that is what I can't wait. I'm really waiting for it.
I think I will start sharing books on the group. I'll start sharing the books on
And
the group, those ones I can get.
yeah,
Um,
and I'm
I also follow up with the
the slide.
library. The
Yes,
library should now upload the material on the portal, but I will share the books. I'll begin by sharing the books so that you start. Even
yes,
that Nova Morganum, I will give you links. I can give you links on WhatsApp so that mwanze kusoma
yes,
wenyewe, you start reading them. I can also look for something on Boel about Nova
yes,
Morganum. You need to read Nova Morganum, and then I'll start sharing the books. Like now, here we have seen, I think we have Well Rider, we have, I'll go check and yesterday I was busy preparing this PowerPoint. I was
yes.
unable to share anything, but I think today and tomorrow I will start sharing the material so that you start reading. Even as you wait for the portal, if I give you books, I know you will start reading.
Yes,
Ndio uone sasa, uanze interact na hiyo philosophy uone. Yeah.
yes,
Otherwise, this is a very interesting area, and it's also very, how can I call it, topical, very topical. In fact, when we were doing the curriculum, the professor who was reviewing the curriculum
yes.
he gave very positive comments on this unit. He said, now this is the area that is very important. I like this. He was very happy with it. And personally, even I also, as I read around it, I've developed a lot of interest in the eco-criticism. But initially, it was not
Yeah.
there. But for the last
Mm.
2 years, I've developed a lot of interest. Mhm. A
So
lot.
it can be an area of a research for
Yes.
masters.
Mm,
It
mm.
can be a very good area from
Can
what
be
I've
a very
seen.
good area.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think I'll try and share what I have. And thank you for attending again. It's always good to attend up to the end, yeah? Um,
Yes.
I don't know why like Ruth just appeared for, I think, no. But you see, with the time,
Yes.
najua ndio tunaanza. So watu
Yeah.
wanaichukulia, but already watu wameanza kuiona. Like I shared that video yesterday on that alumni WhatsApp group, and I
Yes.
saw two people from St. Paul's who are very interested. In fact, one said she's joining us next semester. Hmm? She's
Yeah.
joining us next semester. Another lady has also applied. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yes.
tutaanza tu hivi na watu wataanza kuwa wengi. Um,
Mm.
but huwa inakuwa tu hivyo like I remember masters we began at 25. By the time we started research, we were only two. Mm? Imagine 2 out of 10.
Well, out of
Mm?
25.
Mm. By the
Yeah.
time I was graduating, I was alone. Mm? So there's some people,
Eh,
there's some people who don't take it serious. But if you take something serious, it will
yes.
benefit you. Lakini kama uichukui serious, ni hivyo tu. Pia inakuchukua tu hivyo.
Because according to my understanding,
Mm.
I think where one is shaped properly
Yes.
is masters, because when you go to PhD,
Mm.
PhD is now just a matter of research work, but I think where you
Yeah.
should now be,
Mm.
you should be like properly shaped is in
Yes.
masters.
In fact, at
So
masters, if you're masters, if you are well grounded, at PhD
yes,
you can even do a PhD without coursework.
yes.
Because PhD is just a
So
research, because you now know most of the theories, you know what to do. Yeah. So masters is
yes,
very important. That's where now you're exposed to different areas. You are trained on how to research, and you get grounded.
yes,
You get grounded. Yeah. So I think let's end there, and then I share books with you people. Mwanze
yes.
kusoma.
Okay, thank
Yeah. Have a great evening.
you. You too.